Before this video begins, I'm doing another giveaway with Origin PC. Check out the link in the description. We're giving away the Origin Kronos, which I use for my TV setup. It's amazing. I got 4K resolution support. Just play games. It's smooth. It's beautiful. It's nice. And it can do this. Look, they even attached a meme. Look at this. Variable mounting technology patented. But can you do this? 10 out of 10 meme, of course. Check it out, link in the description. With select systems, you can get a 256GB SSD. Other great offers. Check out originpc.com. Great people, great computers. And moving on with the video. Meme review. Just kidding, it's just me. I didn't get much sleep last night, and I'm just like, can we, this video will be very chill. Just one video that will be very chill. Thank you very much. Okay. Alright. Okay. Feels kind of stupid making a video like this because who cares what PewDiePie has to say about literature. If you follow me on Twitter, I've been reading a lot of books lately, and a lot of people were asking, hey, do a book review. So here I am. It was 3 people that asked, actually. It's really weird. I don't think I've ever read this much in my entire life. It just sort of happened. And I've been loving it. I had a blast this month reading these books. Consider Phoebus, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, Children of Time, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and 12 Rules of Life. I basically wasn't, it's not a New Year's resolution or anything like that. I used to read, YouTube sort of made me completely stop, and I've been really desperate to just do other things in my spare time, and I've been loving it, and I plan to keep on reading, and maybe this could inspire you to read as well, or might just be interesting to hear what I have to say. I don't know, probably not. Shut up. First book is Consider Phlebas, or Plebis, or Plebis. You know, this is an important writer because the title of his name is 5 times big as the title of the book. I didn't know anything about Ian M. Banks. I know he's a Scottish writer. This was written in 1987. I don't think the title or the cover has anything to do with the book. I just knew I wanted to read a sci-fi. I got this idea that I just want to immerse myself in a completely different universe, and space seems like a great place to go. I've been really interested in AI lately, and I thought, maybe I can discover that. I just searched up classic sci-fi, and this is what came up. It's about the main character, whose name is Horza, and he's a very interesting protagonist. He's a changer, as it's called. And whenever I read old literature that is considered a classic but hasn't been made into any form of movie adaptation, because Hollywood would literally take anything and make a movie out of it, but they don't. I'm always thinking, why has this not been made into a movie? And well, I think it's the protagonist. How do you make a movie about a character that can change into other people? It was very interesting to have a character that's sort of OP in a sense. He can change into other people, not as seamlessly as X-Men or whatever, that blue girl or whatever, but nevertheless he can do it. He has teeth that if he bites you, you'll become paralyzed, and if he even just scratches you, he will have the same effect. He doesn't really use the powers as a superhero. It's more of a way to, as a power struggle. This is so uninteresting, I realize, sorry, but the main character, I just find it interesting that the main character is like, he has these really great abilities, and that made it really fun. It's basically about Horza, who is, I feel bad for not remembering this, but he's with the Adaran, which is this space group of people. Man, I'm explaining this amazing. And Adaran is at war with the Culture, which is this space group of people. And Horza is, he wants, through some strange turn of events, he wants to retrieve this AI that had crash landed on a planet called Char's World. That's the story. A lot of things happen in between, but if you write a summary of the plot, it can be extremely short. But it is a space opera in the sense that a lot of cool stuff happens. You know, they fight at a temple, they play this crazy space game. Things that didn't really was necessary for the plot, but it was fun to be part of the journey. And that's what I enjoyed about it. Ian, the writer, loves the culture. It's very clear while reading this that he loves describing what the space civilization is, what their morals are, what their ideas are, and he spends a lot of time on this. And personally, I found it a bit boring after a while. I wanted to know more about Horsa. Why is he part of the Adiran? Why does he want to retrieve the AI so badly? What is his motive as a character? What is that drives him through to want this so badly? We never really find the answer to that, which I find to be kind of annoying. But it wraps up nicely in the end, and it's overall just a fun space adventure. I think that's really all it is. So I would rate this 3 out of 5 stars. It was alright. It was okay. Moving on, I wanted to read a dystopian futuristic sci-fi. I read 1984 by George Orwell before, and it's one of my favorite books. It was a book that really left an impact on me. The meaning and the story tied together really gripped me, and I think about it a lot. A lot of people suggested Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which is very similar to 1984, but they sort of tackled the same issue, but completely different perspectives. Basically, Aldous describes a future. This was written in 1934, I think, or something like that, a long time ago. And Aldous describes a future horror scenario. Human as a society, I think the year was like 2150 or something like that. We have a society where we are just perfectly content. There's no problems, there's no diseases, people are born out of labs through the Bakanovsky effect. People are born without a mother or a father, they're just genetically produced. People are born into hierarchies, so you have the hierarchies and social castes of alphas being the top guys, beta, gamma, deltas. Is that the right order? And everyone is just content where they are. The alphas are happy they're not deltas, and deltas aren't happy they're not alphas. And if there's ever a problem for the people in the society, they just take soma. They brainwash themselves with drugs, and they just feel better. It sort of plays on the blissfully ignorant sort of way of living. And this is how people want to live. This is how people are happy to be. Then another character gets introduced who grew up outside of civilization. He's called a savage. He is basically us. He has the same ideas and values as we do, and he meets this new world, the brave new world, the civilization that is completely different. And the contrast between the savage and the civilization was hilarious. I laughed so much while reading it. As an example, he tells the civilization that he has a mother. A mother? I love her. You love her? It's very funny. I'm not even sure it's supposed to be funny, but I laughed out loud a lot of times while reading it. But then the story, like I said, it might not seem as bad as in the beginning, but the story turns very grim, and you understand that this is not a way to live. This is actually a horror scenario, and the ending left, just like 1984, a very big impact on me. I think about this book a lot after reading it. I love this book. I think it's a masterpiece. 5 out of 5. It's an incredible piece of literature. I could not recommend this enough. If you like dystopian futures, you probably read it already anyway. It's very interesting as well to compare it to 1984. 1984 was just written by George Orwell. Described a future, just to oversimplify, he described a future horror scenario as well, where the government doesn't want you to read books, I guess you can say. But Aldous describes the same fear, but he describes a future where society doesn't want to read book. We just rejected it. We reject the knowledge ourselves. So it's very interesting to have two fears brewed into different perspectives. Moving on, I don't need to go on too much. So naturally, I wanted to read more dystopians because I read 2 and I loved them. So a lot of people suggested Fahrenheit 451, written by American writer Ray Bradbury. And you see here on the back, Ray Bradbury's gift for storytelling reshaped our culture and expanded our world. Barack Obama. I hated this book. Comparing this book to Brave New World, it makes this seem so shallow and so petty I'll try my best to explain why I didn't like this book, because I know a lot of people love this book. And I know a lot of you probably have read this book because, ironically, your teacher told you to read this book. I bet you that's the case. And the irony of that is that it probably will turn people off reading books because it's not an interesting story, but it carries a very important message. So teachers want kids to understand this message about why literature is important, but it's just gonna turn them off. That's how I imagine it. Anyway, I need to explain what the book is about. Sorry. It's about Guy Montag, who's a firefighter. Sorry, he's a fireman, but he doesn't extinguish fires. Get this? He burns books. Burning books. Guys, burning books is bad. Obviously, that's an important message, but I just found it to be told in a very shallow and uninteresting manner. The meaning was the story, not the story itself, which I found to be kind of annoying. I didn't care about Guy, the firefighter. I didn't care what happened to him, and it just made it not really interesting. I read that apparently this book was written in a few days, or maybe it was a month, and you can tell. Compared its writing style to Huxley, this is a joke. I felt like, since it didn't really have a story, I'm just reading Ray Bradbury's ideas and his fears directly, and it just came across as kind of petty and anti-innovation. Maybe at the time it was more reasonable to have the fear that in the future we're not going to care about books anymore. That's Ray Bradbury's fear. He's fear that we're going to listen to the radio while doing other things. And he makes a good point, actually, now I think about it, about how we want to consume media so quickly now. That I did resonate to, and he sort of goes over the top with it. He seems like the kind of person that will tell you don't spend too much time in the front of the TV because your eyes will become squared. And to me, that just seemed like against innovation in the future. Yes, he was probably right about how quickly we want to consume media, but people still read books. Just because we have computers and television and radio, that doesn't turn off from anything. Maybe I misinterpret it, but that's just how I understood the writer. Because of that, I can't give this book too high of a rating. I will give it a 2 out of 5. I don't really understand its praise, and I would not recommend this book. I would much rather recommend a book like this or 1984. Next book! So I asked Marcia what her favorite book was. It's The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Another fine piece of literature, and I understand exactly why Marcia loved this book. It has a meaningful story with sort of horror elements to it, and I think that hits. That's just what Marcia would be interested in. The story is about Dorian Gray, who gets painted by Basil, this painter, and the third character, which name is Lord Henry. I don't want to get too much into each character, but basically Henry gets really infatuated by this picture of Dorian. It's just such a beautiful picture that he painted, that Basil painted, and Dorian himself really adores his painting. Everyone loves his painting, but it's between them that it's been painted. Dorian. It's just this incredibly beautiful man. He's the perfect being, it's described as, and he's in a high social caste. He's well regarded, he's rich, and he has it all. Basically, he has everything you could possibly want, but he realizes that he's not gonna have this beautiful face forever. So he sort of wishes that he could have it forever. He wishes that he could look this young as this picture and as beautiful as the picture forever, and that becomes his curse because he doesn't age at all, and instead the picture becomes a reflection of his soul. Lord Henry, I would describe as, he's older than Dorian. He's lived a fuller life than him, and he has experience, and I think he looks at Dorian sort of as himself in the past, and he gives Dorian advice through different things. And maybe I'm describing the plot too much. Sorry. I think it's just interesting. Dorian makes a mistake, and here's where I really resonated with this book. He had the choice to either double down and just treat it as it wasn't his fault. I think as anyone can do when you make a mistake. You can either own up to it, or you can confess that, yeah, this is my mistake. I made a terrible mistake. Lord Henry, I would almost say, is his devil on the shoulder. and he tells Dorian, no, you didn't make a mistake at all. What you did was fine. And even myself, while hearing Henry's claim, I was like, yeah, actually, he didn't do anything bad. Obviously he did, but it made me resonate myself with like mistakes I made, especially on YouTube, where it's hard to confess to the world that you made a mistake. It may not seem like it. And I went through that myself in my head, where I'm like, well, I didn't really make a mistake. It's not really my fault, and I shouldn't have to own up to this. But I'm glad I did, because you don't want to end up like Dorian Gray. Because basically, since the painting is the reflection of his soul, the painting becomes more tainted by this path that Dorian has been led upon. And it's a very interesting story about vanity, about how one mistake can lead your whole life astray, and it's extremely well written, and I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was fantastic, and I totally understand why it's Marisa's favorite book. I would rate this 4 out of 5. Next up, I wanted to read sci-fi, so I read Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This has been bought by Lionsgate, I think, the film studio, so it's probably going to be made into a film. How are they going to make this into a film? I don't know. Does anyone know? I think this was more what I was looking for when in the beginning, when I wanted to read sci-fi. I think this is what I wanted to read. This tackles some really interesting topics like AI, time, human evolution, speciesism, how we value other species. It was very interesting. To describe the plot without any spoilers, I think the best way I can say it, it's humanity's last hope is on this ship. And then there's also humanity's old empire, as it's called, sort of lingering in space. And then there's this planet where humanity wants to go to. But there's things on the planet. So there's a power play in between the planet, humanity's last hope, and the old empire. And you follow each of these perspectives, more or less. And it's just very interesting. It really made me look differently on how we value species, look at humanity in the future. But overall, it was just a fun space adventure. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun from the beginning to the end. I didn't really like the main character, I guess. I wasn't as gripped by it as I think a lot of other people probably would be. It has an incredibly unexpected character in it, without spoiling it, and I don't understand how they're gonna turn that into a film. Maybe I'm making it seem more interesting than it is, but if you want to go on a modern sci-fi space thing, this is why I'll never write a book. This is it. It's very good, very great. I almost said. I've been talking a lot. Are you still here? Great, because I've been trying to cut it short. I don't think I'll ever read this much in a month, because the last book I read, which I finished last night, which is probably why I'm so tired, is 12 Rules of Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan B. Peterson. You may know about Jordan B. Peterson already. He's very popular on YouTube for being sort of a free thinker. He's sort of a controversial figurehead as well, and I think he's gotten a lot more flack than he deserves because of it, because he's very cut and dry with his ideas, which is why he's been so embraced by the internet and disliked by media, which I can sort of relate to. Have you seen that interview he did with Channel 4? It's sort of gone viral. It became a meme almost, because the lady that tries to interview Jordan try and strawman argue against him. She keeps going, oh, so you're saying this?
But you're just saying that's the way it is. You're saying women have some sort of duty.
So if you want domination,
want to dominate. But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if
it made her goal was to make him look bad and trash Jordan's name in this interview. He completely shut her down, and it made her look really vicious and really spiteful. And it really made me want to read this book because of it, because I was like, wow, that's really impressive. And the Channel 4 News lady, if you read the damn book, you wouldn't have fallen into that trap. He even discusses strawman arguing and why that's wrong in the book.
Ha, gotcha.
Anyway, about the book itself, 12 Rules of Life. I didn't read the title. It's a self-help book. I don't think I ever would have read a self-help book. It gave me a lot of new perspectives that I never thought I would even have. It was very interesting, even reading about advice that doesn't resonate with me at all, but just to understand other people. Jordan goes very deep in philosophical thinking and psychological thinking, and he makes these very simple claims, right? Tell the truth, for example, rule 8, or at least don't lie. We know that. We know not to lie, and we know the moral implications of that, but he goes so in depth in a philosophical and like I said, a psychological way, and how that by telling lies it really twists your worldview. I really resonated with it. That was the only rule where I was like, I don't ever want to lie. He really makes a great point here. So I thought that was really interesting. There was a lot of rules I didn't need to read at all about raising kids, or like how to deal with cope with the failing marriage and that sort of stuff. But you can tell Jordan's goal for this is to help people. You can really appreciate that, at least. I think he unfortunately does it in a way that he goes on a little too long sometimes. Sometimes I find it a bit beating the point to death. And some of the analogies that he made seemed strange at times. They didn't really seem like they fit. He draws comparisons and analogies from Disney movies to old biblical stories. And there's a lot of religious analogies in this book. A lot of religious analogies. And I didn't realize until the very last chapter. I was like, he's religious. I thought he grew up in a Christian household or something like that. And the reason that he drew a lot of religious analogies was because to prove the point that we always knew about this, or maybe this is something that we've known for thousands of years through this biblical text. Whenever I look at self-help, I can't help but feel a bit critical. Like, what is this, some sort of cult book or something like that? And finding out that he was religious in the end, it sort of changed my perspective on the book. I know that's kind of stupid maybe, but even Jordan himself brings it up that the past can be changed from the future, and finding out that he's religious. It's not that big of a deal, but I feel like it's probably unfair for me to say, but anytime self-help, I'm like, this is just some sort of cult following bullshit. It's not at all, but it made me look more critically at the rules, which I think you should do anytime you get advice about how to live your life. So I think that was fine. It didn't ruin anything for me. But surprisingly, like I said, I really enjoyed this book. It was very fun to read. I will definitely take some lessons from this book. Absolutely. And it also made me understand other people around me better. That was the book I read in January. I want to keep reading. I hope this was fun to listen to. I know I've been going on a long time, 30 minutes. It's probably cut down a bit. I had a lot of fun talking about these books. I had a lot of fun this month having a hobby that doesn't involve YouTube. I used to read, but YouTube just took over my life. Hopefully this might inspire you to read more as well, and maybe you'll pick up one of these next month if you want to join me. Book club. I know already which books I'm gonna read next month. Not all of them, but I know I want to read Beyond Good and Evil from Friedrich Nietzsche. Everyone talks about Nietzsche all the time. I never read anything from him, and Jordan mentioned him a lot, so I knew I wanted to read this. I want to read Life 3.0 by Max Tинаев, which is he describes AI and how it may or may not affect us in the future. He's a Swedish genius. I don't know if he's a genius, but the people compare him to the Swedish Elon Musk, and Elon Musk even praises the book. My parents recommended this as well, so I started already a little bit, and it's very interesting. And I want to read what you guys suggest me. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that you think I might be interested in. Leave a like if you enjoyed. I really hope you did. If anything, this is just one video compared to a lot of other where I go and act like a
Dorian.
So that's it. Goodbye. Bye now, squad fam. Is my
Dorian.
hair up like this whole time?